It's a pleasure for me to introduce our guest speaker today. Amy Block-Joy is a cooperative extension specialist and senior lecturer in nutritional ecology at UC Davis. She has been a UC academic for 30 years. She received her Ph.D. in Nutritional Sciences at UC Berkeley in 1979. She also has degrees in Biochemistry and Bacteriology from UC Berkeley. She spent her last sabbatical at the London School of Hygiene and Tropical Medicine in England, studying nutritional deficiencies in poor populations. Her current interests are in the study of health disparities among vulnerable populations. She was here last year to talk about her book, The Whistleblower, which you can check out from this library, along with her other book, Retaliation. Today, she will talk about a completely different topic. She'll talk about the joy of eating green, how to eat healthier, shop wisely, and save money in the process. So please give a warm welcome to Amy Block-Joy.
Welcome, everyone. Thank you, Paul, for your lovely introduction and for inviting me and all your assistants on this event. I'm very honored to be here. And today I'm speaking about the joy of eating green. Good timing, right? Right after New Year's. Okay, how many here made a resolution about health or eating better or cutting out temptation of junk food or exercising or maybe losing a few pounds? Anyone? Okay, really? Those who didn't? What were your resolutions? This is actually what most people do, and in fact, I'm one of those people. I need to cut back on my chocolate intake. So, and it's hard, but I will give you some clues on how you might succeed, and hopefully I will too. So this presentation today is based on a class I teach at UC Davis. I'm now an emeritus professor. I retired from the University of California, Davis after 33 years last year, and my class is called Eating Green: Controversies in Nutrition. So I've compiled all the information that usually we do over 10 weeks into one 45-minute talk. So I hope to finish it. That's why, and in fact, the question part will be really fun for me too. So please write down any questions that you're going to have, because we're going to go on a whirlwind process to talk about food. Well, guess what, Paul? I have already failed in advancing slides. Oh, there it is. Okay. I should have practiced more. Okay, here's what we're going to cover today. The question, what is good health? How to shop wisely and save money. Dietary choices. What's the best way to get sufficient protein? Vegetarian diet versus animal diet. Is organic better? Food safety. Ways to keep food safe. And my favorite topic, carbohydrates and glucose. Is sugar toxic or addictive? Whoops. Okay, so first, what is good health? It may seem like an easy question, but actually, okay, so starting with the components of a healthy diet. When I went to school, and actually I went to school here in Livermore, and it was at that time 4 food groups. And then when I got to Berkeley, it became 7 food groups, and now it's down to 5 food groups. In fact, I don't know, how many people here know about the plate, the USDA plate, where the food groups are? Okay, yell them out. What are the food groups? Protein, good. Fruits and vegetables, yes. Okay. Well, actually, we're going back in time. That's the one I know. Dairy is one of them, and then grains. So, and grains kind of, so we have new words for the same thing. And if I get confused, I have to apologize, because one thing about nutrition, it's a fast-moving and very interesting subject that changes a lot over time. But the ones we're going to focus on are protein, carbohydrate, fat, vitamins, minerals, water. Very important substance. People forget about consuming water. Write it down. Okay, first, how many people here drink at least 3 glasses of water a day? Oh, fantastic. What about 5? Okay, now, anyone 6? Hey, that is brilliant. No, you should aim for 5 glasses, and these are 8-ounce glasses, not those little ones. 8-ounce glasses of water a day, and sometimes, if you actually feel thirsty, it's kind of too late. You're already dehydrated, so you want to keep the body hydrated at all times. Okay, so I'm an academic nutritionist, and we have a philosophy, and actually what I should be telling you is to eat in moderation. Now, when I was told that, I had no idea what that meant. To me, how much candy bars can I have in a day? What is the real answer? Well, I'm going to tell you something different, because what I want you to think about is, first of all, portion sizes. It's important to know when you're full. And the smaller the portion size, the better, because what I want you to do, in fact, which I'll show you in the next slide, is to eat slowly. The other things to think about are protein. You want to choose low-fat sources. Fats, it turns out omega-3 fatty acids are called the good fats. Vitamins and minerals, absolutely. You want to be sure that you replace the water-soluble vitamins every day, because those get lost every day. The fat-soluble ones you retain. Okay, water-soluble vitamins. Anyone? Vitamin C. B, yes. A is actually a fat-soluble vitamin that you don't need to replace every day. But all the B vitamins, yes, and vitamin C. There's some other ones, but those are the important ones. Fiber, very important. We're going to talk about that in a minute. And in fact, a long time ago, we were all told we should reduce our fat content because fat was bad. Well, it turns out people did that. They reduced their fat content, and what did they eat instead? Carbs. Okay, now carbs are bad. So, this is very frustrating when you're a nutritionist, because not only do you have to keep changing your diagrams from 4, 7 to 5, and all the materials you've been using, you toss away because there's a new dietary guideline, but also people start to mistrust you, because one day you're telling them to not eat fat, and then the next day, okay, an egg a day is okay, just don't eat those carbs. Okay. Whoops, I'm getting too good with this. Okay, so for me, the key to success, to health, to a good diet, is awareness. And I want you, in fact, actually, I should have given you a disclaimer at the beginning of this talk. I forgot to do that. You're probably going to leave hungry. I'm really sorry about that, but that's a really important idea that I want you to think about, because most of us have lost the feeling. We don't recognize when we're hungry. We think it's because our stomach is growling we're hungry, but actually hunger is in the brain. It's the hypothalamus that gives the signals that tells you when you're hungry. And we need to get back to the idea that hunger means something, and it should be part of our awareness. So, think about food, large portions, fruits and vegetables. I think that's what the U.S. Dietary Guidelines is trying to say with the plate. You want lots of fruit and vegetables. They're emphasizing that. Small portions of high-fat foods. Water, very important. Fiber, very important. Eat slowly. That way you can enjoy your meal, because that's really what I want to talk to you about today, is the joy of eating. Food should be enjoyed. It's one of our pleasures. So, there's a fruit salad. Now, into protein, I'm going to start with the low-fat, high-protein sources. And you probably know these: beans, fish, lean meats, chicken, eggs, tofu. The important thing also about protein sources is you want to use cooking methods that don't increase the fat content. Don't fry your foods. Bake them, put them in casseroles. Use cooking methods that don't increase the fat content. Beans are actually the best source of protein. They're high in protein, they're low in fat, and they're high in fiber. They go with everything. The more you can put beans in your diet, and in fact, we're at a point in time where you can go to a grocery store and have so many varieties of beans and so many recipes where you can use them in dishes that will be very, not only special, but certainly make the meal a lot of fun. So the other sources, of course, are the lean meats. And remember not to fry. The one thing about beef, to know that it's lean, you won't see as much white. The fat comes out white in the raw meat. If it's marbled, it has a lot of fat. If you see that it's red without the white streaks, you can tell that it's lean. Okay, nuts is another source of protein, but beware, nuts contains a lot of fat. In fact, almonds, very good source of fiber, has no cholesterol, 20 grams of protein in 23 almonds, that's fantastic. However, 14 grams of fat comes with it. So even though nuts are a very good source of protein and should be included in your diet, beware that they are high in fat. And what about eggs? Well, a lot of people want to avoid the yolk because it does have some cholesterol. In fact, one yolk has 187 milligrams of cholesterol. It has 5% vitamin A, 3% iron, 2% calcium. It's got a lot of protein. The problem that people avoid yolks is because of watching their diet and wanting to keep it low fat. So you can have the egg just with egg whites. But they have done studies that show that people who consume an egg each day don't have a higher risk of heart disease than those who consume an egg a week. So the good news is you can eat eggs, and they're a good source of protein. Omega-3 fatty acids are something that recent research has shown can help you reduce triglycerides. Sources are fatty fish like salmon, fish oil, walnuts, flaxseed, pecans, and beans. Now the one warning about omega-3 fatty acids, be sure if you buy the fish oil in a bottle as a supplement that you check to see it doesn't have, that this product doesn't have mercury in it, because the next slide you'll talk about fish, and there is some hazards associated now with fish. Okay, the question is which ones are safe. Now, there's a lot of information if you're concerned about fish on the internet, and I encourage you to look at it. Most of the concern is for pregnant women, young children, because of the mercury, the contaminants in the water that the fish consume and now are in the fish. And these fish, they carry mercury and PCBs, which are polychlorinated biphenyls. They're industrial waste products that end up in the fish. And you don't want to consume them. It's much worse for young children because it gets into the developing brain, and it's bad for the nerve development and the brain development. So the ones that they actually tell pregnant women and young children not to eat are swordfish, shark, tilefish, mackerels, some forms of mackerel, because they're high in mercury. It's not quite clear whether the warning extends to adults that just eat a small amount. I think there's going to be more information about that in the future when they actually know how much the water is contaminated. The fish that are actually safe to eat are the sole, the whitefish, trout, pollock, catfish, and like I said, you can look it up. There's a long list of safe fish. Salmon, which is high in omega-3 fatty acids, is okay. Shellfish, shrimp is very low in mercury. It's not zero, it's very low, and other shellfish are fairly low too. Tuna, which unfortunately is, a very, very good source of protein and has a lot of other nutrients. Try to get, if you buy the canned tuna, the ones in the water rather than in the fat. So the light tuna is much better, has much less mercury in it. Fiber. Fiber is a very important nutrient, and in fact, there's a lot known about it now. And when I was in graduate school, it was one of the projects that I was studying. So I feel very close to fiber. It helps food move through the colon so that the body is getting rid of waste products quickly and toxic substances quickly. It also, foods that are high in fiber also tend to be high in nutrients, other nutrients like vitamin C and B vitamins, because these are fruits and vegetables. And interestingly, research has shown that people who consume a lot of fiber are also healthier. And it probably can be explained by the fact that people who are interested in being healthier look up the sorts of things they should be doing, and one of them is eating fiber, exercising, drinking fluids. Okay, so now I'm going to give you 10 tips on saving money in the supermarket. Part of my work was working with low-income families, and we wanted to help them with some practical ideas on how that they could stretch their food dollars wisely. So, oops. Did you get those? I'm not very good at this. Whoops. Uh-oh. I have to be very careful. It's not going backwards. Don't look. Sorry, Paul. I got trigger happy here with the remote. There we go. Thank you, Paul. Try to keep my thumb off that. Okay, so the first one, shop with a list. Now this may seem obvious, but it's very important to reduce temptation when you go to the store, and one way to do this, to be focused, is to have a list of what you want to buy. It also is a good way to plan your meals ahead of time, so that when you go to the store, you buy the things you need and the things you don't need. But even better to avoid temptation is go to the store when you're not hungry. Has anyone gone to the store after eating a meal? Okay, so you're not tempted by anything. I mean, it's actually a horrible experience. It's much more fun to go when you're hungry, but you end up buying a lot of things that you may not buy, may not want or need or want to buy. Oh, good, I did it right. Okay. 3, read the nutrition label. So this nutrition fact label, this is not a real food. It's just an example, but what it gives is a lot of really useful information, and particularly it will give you the serving size, so you know how much the nutrition facts are about. So you need to pay attention to whether it's a cup, and this one it's 2 tablespoons like peanut butter. This isn't peanut butter, but it's similar to peanut butter. And then how many, especially if you're interested in price, how many servings in the container. Then you can look at the calories and the fat. Pay attention to that. Usually the sodium will, if you're on a low sodium diet, you want to look at that. Potassium is also important. This food doesn't have potassium, but it's usually shown. It means that this food doesn't have potassium if it's not listed. Total carbohydrate. Usually underneath that will have sugars and total fiber. So fiber, really important to look at. And protein, and then it has the vitamins and minerals. So the other label to look at is the unit pricing. Now, unit pricing is something that, wait, actually, I think I skipped one. Yes, okay, sorry. Number 4, ingredients. Very important. If you're watching what you intake, if you're concerned about your sugar consumption, if you want to know really what's in a food, you have the label, but then underneath is the ingredients. And look at this comparison here. We have 100% orange juice, and then you have another juice, but it's only 10% juice. So this, actually, if you look at the ingredients, you see the first one is water, and the second one is high fructose corn syrup. What you're buying is not really juice, you're buying sugar. And in fact, the price probably will be much less for this drink, and that might convince you that, it's called juice, and in fact, you see that it has 100% vitamin C. You look at the ingredient label, and you see that they have added ascorbic acid. It's not real vitamin C. It's a chemical vitamin C. Now, there's nothing really distinct about the two, but wouldn't you feel better drinking real vitamin C than ascorbic acid? So the one on the left is the ingredients 100% squeezed pasteurized orange juice. And I want to add, actually, when you buy juice, unless you know that it's made fresh, unless you see it being made, unless you make it yourself, you want to aim to get a pasteurized juice because of the E. coli scare a few years ago. There's now these pathogens, E. coli 0157, that have ended up in products like orange juice and other juices. So be sure to check to see if something is pasteurized, unless you're confident that the product has been made and there's no contamination of animal products. Okay, so this one has, fruit juice tends to have a lot of potassium. It's a good source of potassium, not just bananas, but fruit juice. Okay, so number 5 is the unit price. Most of the time in the store now, when you look at unit price, the units will be the same for the different brands. This is a way to pick which brand you want to buy. And the way they determine unit price is they take, so the example at the top, there's 3 different brands. One is 59 cents, one's $5, one's $3. And the units are all different, grams, pounds, ounces. So it's very difficult to be able to tell what you're actually buying. And this is why the store does it for you, and it's very, very handy to have. Because you might be tempted to only pay 59 cents and think you're getting a good deal. But look at the difference. The 59-cent product costs $1.51 for 100 grams. The same unit, 100 grams, for the 4 pounds at $5 is only 28 cents. So unit price is something you might want to take a look at. And here's just another example. Okay, number 6, shop the perimeter of the store. Market researchers in grocery stores have been done to actually get consumers like us to go into the middle of the store to buy things we may not need. And in fact, that's why the healthy food is in the perimeter, so it makes you kind of walk through the danger zone, I call it. So when you're tempted to buy things, you see sale signs, you see the products, maybe your kids reach for the cereal with the most sugar in it. You want to start in the fruit and vegetables and work your way around the store. And then if you have a list, and there's an item, canned tomatoes, you go find it, and with blinders. So. Oh, darn. Okay, 7, think protein. You want to try to find the protein, which is the most expensive part of a diet, on sale if possible. But you also want to be sure that it hasn't expired. Now, the expiration date on foods usually means the shelf life. It doesn't necessarily mean the food is bad. However, wouldn't you rather have the food expire in your own refrigerator than at the store? So look at the date, make sure the shelf life hasn't expired, and choose wisely. 8 planned meals ahead. This way saves a lot of money, saves fewer trips to the store, also allows you to think about the food that you want to prepare, whether it's 3 days ahead, 5, 7, some people shop for a month. The other thing is to look for cheaper ways of buying things, like rice in bulk is a lot cheaper than buying it in small packages. And whether it's white rice or brown rice, remember the brown rice has the bran, which increases the amount of nutritional value. The bran is where you find the fiber. But both products, whether it's white or brown rice, will be cheaper in bulk. Number 9, your grandmother was right. Cook. Food prepared from scratch will taste better, be healthier, and cost less. And in fact, I did a research study on this very topic. I have some copies if people want to get one. And we looked at food preparation practices and compared the way people prepared food and looked at their health. And we found that people that were cooking more, cooking foods from scratch, and it doesn't even need to be a complex recipe. In fact, in my program, we tended to have recipes that had 5 ingredients and could be prepared in 15 to 30 minutes because people don't have a lot of time. Their health was so much better. So mealtime is an important time, especially if you have children around. And one final tip, enjoy your food, because that's what eating is about. Food should be always a pleasant and happy experience. Okay, now I'm going to talk about animal sources versus vegetarian sources of protein, because there are so many dietary styles these days based on culture, based on religion, based on your feelings about animals, based on health. And all these reasons are very good reason to try or be part of a vegetarian diet. It certainly is a diet that tends to be very low in fat. It's one way to achieve that naturally. And there's different kinds of vegetarian diets. The vegetarian diet is essentially plant sources, no animal products. There's the vegan, which is actually very strict. That's the diet that excludes all meat, fish, poultry, eggs, and dairy product. That can be very difficult to define, although nowadays it's much easier because there are restaurants, there are items on menus that are vegan and they're labeled vegan. Ovo-vegetarian is mostly plant sources, but also people consume eggs, lacto, the same except they consume dairy products. And then there's the semi-vegetarian. Some people eat mainly a vegetarian diet, but they also have fish and chicken. Now, if you do eat vegetarian, there's some things you should know about the differences between animal source diets and vegetarian diets. For one, if you're a vegetarian, any kind of vegetarian, you want to choose rich sources of protein, like beans and nuts and high protein grains. Iron is a mineral that's important to think about because a meat-based diet has heme iron, which is the best available iron for absorption. When you have meat, the amount of iron that's readily available to be absorbed and into the body is about 20%. Now, that's not a lot, actually, when you think about it. 20% of the iron gets absorbed. But on a vegetarian diet, it's down to 10%. And in fact, some diets only 5% are absorbed. And there's certain reasons, and that's because phytates are in spinach and other dark leafy vegetables that can grasp the iron and excrete it so it doesn't get into the body. So the way to, if you're a vegetarian, to improve your iron absorption rate is to have vitamin C-rich foods when you're eating iron-rich foods. So the iron-rich foods include meats, beans, fortified cereals. For the vegetarian, fortified cereals and beans are very good sources. The same for iron and zinc is true, because zinc also readily available in meat products and animal products, but not as easily found and absorbed in plant sources. Calcium, if you're vegan and you don't consume dairy products, you need to increase your calcium by eating foods either fortified with calcium. In fact, orange juice now, you can, if you're vegetarian or vegan, you might want to try the calcium fortified orange juice to just get that extra amount. Other forms are spinach, collard greens, almonds, soybeans, and other products like cereals that are fortified with iron or calcium or zinc. Again, read the label to find out. Okay, vitamin B12 is the hardest one because there aren't any food sources that are plant-based, that are vegetarian, that contain B12. So you either need to get a supplement. Years ago, people used to have to go to the doctor and get a shot of B12. You don't need a lot of it, but you do need to be sure that you have some B12. So if you're vegan, a strict vegan, get a supplement. Vitamin D is kind of the new vitamin E. You know, it used to be vitamin E was the big news. Now it turns out vitamin E, you want to be careful not to consume too much of it, because the antioxidant properties of vitamin E turn into oxidative processes if you have too much. But nowadays, vitamin D is the one that people are paying attention to. It's actually being measured now in blood tests, because we're finding that the skin is no longer the reason to, the sun exposure into the skin to convert cholesterol to vitamin D is no longer producing adequate amounts. I don't know whether it has to do with the ozone layer or whether it has to do with people using sunscreen that, you know, with the high content of keeping the radiation out of the skin, or whether it has to do with the fact when we measured vitamin D and determined how much we needed, it wasn't sufficient. But people are becoming deficient in vitamin D. So it's something to pay attention to. It's not in foods naturally. You have to find it in fortified foods, and most of those are dairy products. So again, if you're a vegan, you may have to take supplements and at least be sure to get foods that are fortified with vitamin D. Okay, now to organic. Is organic better? Is it better for health? Is it better for the environment? Okay, who thinks organic foods are better for their health? Okay. Who thinks organic foods are better for the environment? Okay, good, good. So I'm going to give you the latest information. So the one thing about organic, it's now becoming, in fact, this is the label. If you see the label on a food product, it means it's certified as organic. Without the label, it's not. So if the food says almost organic, you know, it's not. You want to see that USDA organic label. And what organic refers to is growing and processing foods that rely on, a typo there. Reply, interesting, on the Earth's natural resources that encourage soil and water conservation and reduce pollution. So this is why organic is better for the environment, because we're trying to shift the way food is grown so that we're not using pesticides, insecticides, medications for animals, but we're trying to use new methods, or actually these are actually old methods, to help food in ways that are natural rather than artificial and produce contaminants. So the label, the organic seal on food products means it contains at least 95%, and that means the ingredients not only are organic, but they were prepared with organic methods. if it's a single item food, it's 100% organic. These are fruits and vegetables. The benefits of eating organic. Now, I've tried to find papers that actually have proven a health benefit, and I have not been able to find any. In fact, we all know that it's beneficial. I mean, but the research is still behind. And in fact, I think in the next decade, we're going to be seeing a lot of studies. And I hope that our moving toward traditional farming techniques will happen faster than when we find out that these pesticides have done health damages to us. So the benefits that are known, protects the environment. Organic farming encourages soil and water conservation, and that's something California really needs. Animals are given organic feed and allowed to graze outdoors. Now, is that a shocking idea to you? Because if you watch, I don't know if you've seen the movie Food Inc., a very good movie, you see animals being treated as though they're commodities in an industrial warehouse. They're side by side, they're being fed corn. I mean, doesn't that sound a little ridiculous? Cows being fed corn. And that's because corn is cheap. And, we're using corn for all sorts of things that we probably shouldn't be using it for. And in fact, one of the big proponents of good health is Michael Pollan. He has a very good book called Food Rules, and he also has another one, The Omnivore's Dilemma. Dilemma. Is it Delight? It's Dilemma. Okay, right. Dilemma. Thank you. I'm so joyful that I turn everything into something positive. So anyway, the idea of getting animals out to graze and eating natural foods is, in fact, a very positive feeling. I think it'll help the environment, it'll help the food, and in fact, you can now buy beef that is certified to be organic and raised on these farms where this happens. The other thing about feeding cattle corn is this is one of the reasons why we have this very dangerous pathogen, the E. coli 0157. This pathogen is directly related to a corn diet, antibiotics, growth hormones, and medications given to beef, which kills off the good bacteria and allows these pathogens to grow and end up in the food supply, which is very, very dangerous. Okay, so organic also encourages more farmers to rotate crops, use mulch, beneficial insects, bees, very important part of the environment. These insects instead of insecticides, it makes good sense. Food safety, okay, now I'm going to give you some very practical ideas about food safety. You probably already know these, but let me go over them and emphasize why they are really important to actually do. Wash hands with soap and water. Best way to eliminate germs. But you have to do it with warm water or hot water, and you have to do it for 20 seconds. Now that sounds like a long time. In fact, some people say, sing happy birthday, and that's about, but I think you have to sing it twice. Okay, so you really need to get those hands clean. The sanitizers that are around, they're alcohol. They, keep them in your car. They're helpful. They eliminate maybe 80, 85%. But soap and water is the best. Clean cutting boards. Now, in fact, I'm going to tell you need 2 cutting boards. One for fruits, vegetables, breads, and other things, and a separate one for animal sources. Because those bits of meat get into the cracks of a cutting board, and even if you clean it regularly, it's much safer not to have fruit and vegetable next to particles of food, chicken, beef. Cooked chicken, pork, fish thoroughly, keep hot foods hot, keep cold foods cold. Leftovers into the fridge within 30 minutes. Okay, who follows that principle? Yeah. Oh, no one, okay. Okay, wait, actually, let me ask you, how many people have been food poisoned? Anyone? That counts. Yeah, no, you won't believe how common this is. In fact, sometimes it takes 36 hours before you actually have the symptoms of food poisoning. So you might think you're just sick, but it could be something you ate, a day and a half or 2 days ago that made you sick, because it takes that long sometimes for the bacteria to multiply. In fact, Shigella, which is found in seafood, can take up to 36 before you get the food poisoning from Shigella. So eat leftovers within 3 days. Now that's a hard one. People always tell me, oh, it's been 5 days and it was perfectly fine. Well, I mean, how many want to live with the risk of getting sick? I mean, I don't. So, but of course, and actually, I don't get sick. I mean, that's the good news. I follow these principles. I don't get sick, and of course, I stay away from people who are sick. That's another good principle. But the one thing about leftovers is sometimes you can't tell if it's gone bad. You might want to date it, and especially if it's chicken or anything made with a cream, potato salad, leftover chicken, even meat. With chicken, you can smell it, and you can usually tell, but sometimes you can't, because if you have a very spicy sauce on it, you might not actually be able to tell. And the other thing with the meat, you might see a gray covering on it, layer. That, toss it, right, everyone? We agreement here? Okay, because you don't want to take the risk. It's not worth it. Okay, so this is a slide to illustrate cross-contamination in case I haven't made you paranoid. This one should do it. Okay, so imagine little bits of that meat into the salad here. No, you don't want to eat that, right? Okay, so 2 cutting boards, clean them thoroughly, and separate the animal products from your produce. Okay, this is my favorite part. Carbohydrates. And this, I'm going to be talking about some items that are very controversial, and you don't have to agree with me because most people don't. So, and in fact, I'm hoping if you have, ideas of your own that you will tell me at the end. We're going to finish up in a few minutes. But this is a molecule of glucose. And glucose is a very important substance because it's the energy block. It's the energy molecule that keeps us going, that keeps our blood flowing. You want a certain amount of glucose in the blood for energy, for movement, just to keep your body in balance. People who have problems with glucose metabolism, people with diabetes, the glucose is either too high or too low. And the reason that they have diabetes is because the pancreas is supposed to put out insulin to control and balance the amount of glucose in the bloodstream. And if your pancreas isn't working, with type 1, you have no beta cells that actually produce insulin, and therefore the blood glucose rises and rises. You get very tired. It's like your bloodstream is filled with sludge. So you need to take shots of insulin to bring the blood sugar down. If you're type 2, your pancreas isn't working effectively. There's a whole bunch of reasons, medical reasons, health reasons that can happen. There's a lot of different ways to treat that, but one thing you do want to do is you want to be sure that you're eating and having your blood glucose checked. So a professor, a Dr. MD at UCSF, Dr. Robert Lustig, has a claim, and he's sounding an alarm saying that sugar is toxic. And I think this is good news. I think people need to pay attention to this idea that products have additional sugar in them that don't need to be in there. And this is high fructose corn syrup. Now, very quickly, sucrose is composed of two molecules, one glucose, one fructose. And sucrose is the naturally occurring sugar that we have in fruits and vegetables. And we're used to the taste. It's a sweet taste. It turns out that fructose is a lot sweeter. In fact, fructose is maybe twice as, 1.5 times as sweet as glucose or sucrose. But fructose has a very different metabolic pathway, whereas glucose is balanced by insulin production, and there's a whole cascade of mechanisms in the body to make that balance happen. Fructose is only metabolized by the liver. So every time you consume high fructose corn syrup, which is in pretty much everything that is commercial products, you are putting stress on your liver. And this is something very new, because when diets were looked at in the 1900s, we were only consuming about 15 grams per day. Now it's up to 55 grams a day of fructose. Fructose can also increase your triglycerides. And again, this is the risk of heart disease. Not necessarily cholesterol, but triglycerides. You want to keep those low. Okay, high fructose corn syrup can wreak havoc on your metabolism. We don't actually know really what's going on. There's just some theories, ideas, but we do know that fructose has to go to the liver to be broken down. And therefore, it's putting a lot of stress on a liver, which the liver is a very important part of our life. We need to keep it not stressed. High fructose corn syrup also reduces the ability to feel full. And appetite regulation actually starts with the hypothalamus in the brain. So if we have a lot of sugar in our system and a lot of fructose, we're not actually going to be getting those signals. And those signals are really important to knowing when to eat, when to stop eating, because the hypothalamus controls hunger, controls sleep, body temperature. It has a whole range of physiological functions and a cascade of hormones and peptides that work to get you to have these feelings that will make things better for your health. So if you have too much high fructose corn syrup, you may start to lose the feelings of satiety or fullness that you need. There's also links of high fructose corn syrup with not only heart disease, types of cancer, obesity, and other illnesses. That sleep deprivation, there's a protein called leptin that it interferes with. So watch out for high fructose corn syrup. As we saw on the label, soda contains mostly high fructose corn syrup. It's a commercial product that is very cheap to make, although it's a very complex process to make it. You make it from corn. And therefore, there's another reason to be reading the ingredients label. Okay, I'm just about up. Instead of going over these questions, I'm just going to ask you, how many people feel that they're addicted to sugar? Anyone? Okay. Well, just a few of us. Well, I don't know. There's a book written about it, which I'm going to recommend, which is called The End of Overeating. Dr. Kessler. Oh, did I do that? Whoops. Sorry, I think there's only one more slide. Dr. Kessler is an MD, was head of the FDA and also head of the UCSF Med School. And he has written a very good book on why he believes sugar is addictive. Some people it's other things like salt. I mean, if you have a, okay, who has a salt? Okay, yeah, salt and sugar are the two main ideas. And you know, you have this craving for it, and you can't really turn it off. So that's what I mean by addiction. Thanks, Paul. Okay, one last word on gluten-free diets. Now, okay, this is the new food craze. It came out of the idea, celiac disease is a very, very difficult disease. People with celiac disease, it's an autoimmune illness that means when the food gets to their small intestine, they don't have the ability to break down the gluten. And so they have to avoid or eliminate completely any wheat, rye, barley, and foods made from these products from their diet. And in years past, it was very, very difficult to actually find foods that didn't have even small traces amount of wheat products or barley products or other things. In fact, I have a list there you can look it over: salad dressings, gravy, things that you wouldn't expect have gluten in them. And now we have a lot of food products that are labeled gluten-free. And it's, you know, it's not a bad idea to avoid a lot of starch and gluten in your diet, but don't go overboard. I mean, I went to a friend's house, and she doesn't have celiac disease, but she feels she's allergic to gluten, and that's a very common thing that's happening. I don't know if the next wave of illnesses will be that instead of asthma, we're now have problems with gluten in the future. That's quite possible. It may even be an environmental issue. But the one thing, when she had dessert and it was made out of flax flour, just wasn't the same, the chocolate cake. Anyway, so although there is a very nice chocolate torte that's flourless that is quite good. So if you're going to eliminate gluten, don't eliminate the sugar and the butter. I'm just kidding though, because I'm a nutritionist. I'm not supposed to say that. But I did want to end on a joyful note. Okay, so now we're going to take questions. So thank you all for attending. Any question? Yes.
Did you say that in the tuna, the canned tuna versus, you know, if you have 2 cans of tuna and one is in, say, oil and the other is in water?
Yes, oil-based versus water-based.
You're saying that the one in oil would have more mercury in it?
That's what I've read. Okay. Yeah, and I can't actually tell you how much more, but the guidelines that I've read, and you should go on the web, there's a lot of information to actually check this out yourself if you're concerned. But the water-based tuna has less.
And then just to follow up, then
okay.
After you've eaten, like, you know, your tuna consumption for whatever period of time, I mean, does your body get rid of the mercury?
No, thank you, that's a good point. The body does not get rid of the mercury. It accumulates, and that's why you want young children not to start their life out with accumulation of mercury. Mercury is a toxin to the brain, and to the nerves, and to the development of the brain, and not good. So, yes.
On the labels, serving size, is it based on men or women, or how do they figure that out?
Very good question. Yes, you know, the one thing we're discovering now is that there is a gender difference, especially in, well, the question was about serving size, you know, who's it for? This is one of the problems with being in nutrition, is because all the recommendations are based on what's considered to be average, normal person. And even though you can look up recommendations between men and women and see gender differences, it's kind of an average. So it's based on probably more likely men, because that's who've been studied. In fact, when I was at Berkeley, they were doing a lot of studies on nutritional requirements, and they were studying men, and so a lot of the basic information we have is on men. and I don't want to sound sexist, but there are differences between women and men that we haven't actually even uncovered. And although the latest research on heart disease is women have a completely different profile of getting heart disease and symptoms, and so, read about it if you're a woman, because all the recommendations that have come out were about studying men. And it's kind of a silent killer that we need to be concerned about. Okay, good question, thank you. Yes.
I have two questions. When you were asking about how much water you drink, would you count milk or tea or in that?
Good question. Okay, so when you think about water, do you count other fluids like milk, tea? Milk you can count because it doesn't have a diuretic. Tea and coffee kind of are negative, have a negative effect because they have diuretics in them, which means you drink a cup of tea, you're going to pee. I don't know if it's a cup, but it has an effect that causes you to have the diuretic property.
Is that the caffeine?
It's the caffeine, yes. So, but even decaffeinated products have a little bit of that effect anyway. So, actually, if you're drinking 3 glasses of water and 2 cups of tea and coffee, that might be 5, but at least you're getting 3 of the water. So, so vote for, I say vote for water. And in between meals, when you're in the kitchen, just drink a glass. If you're want to lose some weight, one idea is to drink a glass of water before your meal, because your stomach's going to get a little bit full and you're going to eat less. So, and also you have one glass of water down. Yes.
What about the herbal tea?
Herbal
tea. Green tea has caffeine, but herbal tea doesn't have caffeine.
Right. Herbal tea, probably you could count that, but don't hold me to that. Still, remember, 3 plus 2 herbal teas, okay? Trying to get you up there. Yes?
How about vegetables like cucumber, which is mostly water anyway?
Well, and watermelon, yes, those are both, but you can't count that in fluid, unless you can drink them. Make a cucumber shake. And add a lot of water. Actually, there was a question in the back first. Yes?
Going back to the tuna, at what age would it be safe for children to start eating tuna?
Well, children can eat tuna. In fact, when I grew up here in Livermore, I had a tuna sandwich every day. Although maybe the mercury wasn't as bad at that point. I'm not going to tell you how old I am, but it was a long time ago. I think children, when they get to the age where they're going to school, it's probably, they recommend two servings a week. That may be very conservative. It's, like I said, I would read about it because one of the things about the information, it's geared for the general population. And so what I'm saying may not be relevant in your situation if your children are 5 and 6. I mean, tuna is a really great product to eat, and I really don't want to tell people not to eat it, but I just think you should be aware that there is concern about mercury. Don't feed it to very, very young children, and limit the amount you feed it to young children. So, yes.
When I was in college, that was over 40 years ago. So I thought you see a lot of farmers on campus at the store and we just have the price of the wild salmon. So is
Yes.
it true that farmers salmon campus
Well, the problem with the farm raised is that there's probably more contaminants, and people are now reducing their consumption of those and going to the wild instead. That's why the price is lower. But again, this is not something that's going to kill you and make you sick. It's just something to be concerned about over time. not to consume these products every day, and a lot of it, just be aware and read about it. But what you've read was true, yes. And it has to do with pollutants and contaminants in the water, and certainly with farm raised, they tend to be higher there. Yes, yes.
Does the fructose in fruit have the same effect on the body as corn syrup?
Good question. So the fructose in fruit is part of sucrose, which is broken down by the body, and we've had no problem with it for the last, 5 decades. It's the introduction of this high fructose corn syrup. And in fact, probably naturally occurring fructose is pretty much okay. It's the fact that we've been messing around with nature, and that always leads to disaster. So avoid soda. Don't give your kids soda. I mean, that's one thing I think is true, that soda is really a bad source of nutrients because there isn't any. There's no water in it. It's better to drink water than to spend money in these big sodas that mostly are just sugar, and the former sugar is not even natural sugar. It's high fructose corn syrup. You're drinking sludge.
What about juice? I've heard that you're not supposed to drink a lot of juice.
Oh,
Yeah, we're talking about 100% juice.
100%
Not
juice?
10% juice drinks.
Well, juice has a lot of calories, and I haven't heard that, but I guess a diet of juice probably wouldn't be a good idea, but
The idea is that rather than drink the juice, you eat the whole fruits and you get
yes,
fiber.
okay, thank you, absolutely. Right, and in fact, if you take an orange, it has so much more fiber than if you make it into a juice, because what you're doing is breaking up all the fiber and turning it into glucose. So you have a lot more sugar in these juices. Thank you. Sorry I missed that point. Appreciate your help. Okay, yes.
You mentioned look for information on the web, but there's a lot of information that's not very accurate.
Good point, yes.
Particular websites on nutrition that are accurate? Or
Yes, thank you. That's a really good point. There's a lot of misinformation on the web, and I'll tell you, you get a lot of it. So the best sources are like the USDA website, also websites like the Mayo Clinic, WebMD, the ones that have some sort of professional association. There's also what's called the California Dietary Association, CDA, and the American Academy is the new name for the National Academy for Nutrition. So USDA tends to have a lot of publications that are written for consumers that don't have a lot of background in the field, and they've got a very good website. Thank you. Mm-hmm. Yes.
I've been doing a lot of shopping at the farmer's market, and I'd like to cut my vegetables up for the week. Do you lose any nutrition by doing cuttings ahead of time or something like that?
Oh, interesting. I don't think so. The only thing, if you take a fruit and you make it into a juice, you're going to lose some nutrition because of the fiber, and you're going to release a lot of in fact, if a diabetic has an orange, their blood sugar is not going to raise as much as if they have a juice because of the amount of glucose that's now available. But with vegetables, if you just cut them, I don't think, like carrots and lettuce, yeah. No, I don't think that's an issue. Yes?
Are lentils considered a bean?
I think so, yes. Lentils are considered a bean. Yes.
What is your opinion on Gatorade?
Gatorade. Oh, I haven't had a question like that in years. Gatorade's still around, isn't it?
The teenagers are drinking that kind of thing very often, quite often.
Yes. Well, Gatorade, the one advantage, I know athletes use Gatorade because of all the electrolytes in it. I don't think it tastes very good. I'm surprised. Maybe they made it better than they used to. but it tastes very salty to me. But it does have a lot of the electrolytes. In fact, if you've been sick, if you've had food poisoning, sipping small amounts of Gatorade or chicken soup, actually that's the best source of comfort, chicken soup. But Gatorade will be able to get you to replenish those electrolytes, which you need to replenish, but if you're sick, sometimes you can't do it quickly. So make ice cubes of Gatorade, and that's a good way. But as a drink for kids, no, I would think it would be expensive, and eating natural food like fruit, apples, oranges, bananas is much better. Yes, Paul.
Is there a carbonated beverage that's a healthier alternative to soda?
Oh, good question. Carbonated beverage that's healthier. Well, if you look at the label, you might be able to see that it doesn't contain additional sugar. There are fruit juices that have been carbonated. Now, however, I would not want to suggest that people take in a lot of phosphorus, which is in those carbonated beverages, because phosphorus is also another substance that can wreak havoc on your metabolism. Some people are more sensitive, but a carbonated beverage a day is not a bad idea. It does make you feel good. Yes?
Do you have any opinion on plastic versus wood carving boards?
Oh, good question. Okay, plastic versus wood carving boards. In my program, we used to tell people they should get plastic ones because of the fact that wooden ones, you get little cuts in them and you can't see and they're hard to clean. But it turns out the plastic ones have the same problem. So usually the plastic ones probably may not last as long as the wood ones, and they probably will not be they will be contaminant free for a longer time than the wood ones. But in the end, they both have the same problem. The issue is to actually clean them very well with a scrubbing brush to make sure you get every morsel of animal product out of them, so you don't have cross-contamination. Yes?
I put those plastic cutting board into the dishwasher machine.
Yes.
So that they will go through the cycle, sterilize.
Okay. Did it bend or melt?
No.
Okay, good. That's a good idea, because you're getting the right temperature, you're getting it clean. Yes. Yes, you're sterilized. That's a really good idea. I haven't done that, but if it works, it doesn't melt.
No.
Great.
Just stick it in there.
Okay, any last questions for Amy? I have a question. Aspartame, is that?
Aspartame, yes.
Should we stay away from that? Because I've heard some negative things about that ingredient.
Well, if you plot, this is a sweetener. If you plot the implementation of a new sweetener on the market, and then it hasn't been tested usually, and then they test it, and then suddenly it's taken off the market, and they introduce a new one. So this is supposed to be naturally, because it's a amino acid, but there is some question about it, and like all sweeteners, we're not absolutely certain. Saccharin ended up having cancer-producing properties in mice. I don't know if they ever proved that was true in humans, but it was taken off the market quite quickly, and all the other ones. There is another one called Stevia. Anyone watch Breaking Bad? Sorry, that was a joke. But they use stevia in a very interesting way in that show. Yes, all of these are probably safe, but like I said, read about them, because some of them haven't been tested as much as others. And once they start testing them, they usually find something wrong. In fact, you can find something wrong with pretty much anything. Okay, so actually I I should make a disclaimer now. Don't drink too much water because people have been known to become over-consuming water and can drown. So you can die, yes, yes, yes. So, but you're safe with 5 glasses a day, and certainly 3. And remember 2 of the tea that doesn't have high caffeine. Okay.
Okay. Thank you. And if you have any other questions, you can go up to Amy at the end of the program. And thank you. Let's give her.
Thank you.